Welcome to the Embrace Strength podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Crocker. I am an experienced trainer and active life professional. I work with people who are struggling with nagging pain to get back to the activities they love without fear of re-injury. This podcast is here to educate and provide value to you on all things health, fitness, staying active, and personal development. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to the weekly recap. I know I've been MIA for 3 weeks now on the recaps, and I'm actually recording this on my phone, so sorry if the audio is not as clear, but having technical issues with my recording software. So just rocking it on the phone because I've been putting this off, and I told myself, I was like, Monday, I'm going to podcast and I'm going to batch, other than batching the recaps, because that wouldn't make sense, but whatever. So I'm back. Hello. I had a really busy October. I didn't even realize that it had been so long since I had done a recap until I looked this morning. So technically this is weekly recap 30 through 33, the first 3 weeks of October. But yeah, so I'm just going to kind of brain dump the past 3 weeks. And hopefully it all makes sense. So the big thing that happened this month was we finally did our honeymoon trip. We went to Moab, Utah, for a whole week. And so the week before our vacation was super busy with, random one-off appointments and, getting the dogs to my parents and prepping for the trip and making sure I was ahead enough on work and all these different things. So that was super chaotic. And then actually being on the trip was so great. I mean, I have not had a full week unplugged since last Christmas. And it's funny because at the beginning of 2025, I told myself, I was like, I'm going to take, once a quarter, I'm going to have a few days unplugged. And I totally have not done that. This was the first time all year, basically. I feel like things just got so thrown off with I don't know, time just goes by fast. And if you don't plan ahead for that type of thing, it just doesn't happen. And everything always does feel urgent when you run your own business because it is all on you. It's there's this thing of dude, if I'm not working, no one else is working in my business, right? Keeping things moving forward or planning or whatever. So I had this it's bad, but everything does always feel urgent and there's always stuff to do, always. And I think that's one of the biggest things that makes me resist towards more frequent time off is there's just always so much to do. If you're not doing something actively for that week, it's getting ahead and planning and the rest of the quarter and then the rest of the year. And it's just a lot. But during the Utah trip, I was fully unplugged. I did not check my client messages at all. I turned off my notifications for my Voxer app for the coaches that I mentor. So if they sent me stuff, I wouldn't even see the notification because, dude, if the notification can come through, it's really tempting. So I was good about that, which I was proud of. And it was so good. It was the first time we had been to, or Patrick had been there once when he was way younger, but I had never been to Moab before. It was so beautiful, and I love the outdoors. I love hiking, and I just love the West. I love the landscape out West because it's so different than the East. And, I've grown up out here on the East, and so anytime I go out West, I'm just enamored by how beautiful it is. And the desert landscape, I just am obsessed with. I love all the red dirt and the canyons and the mountains and whatever. I just love it. So that was awesome just to be out there. And basically what we did was we did 1 or 2 hikes per day and just tried to see as much as possible because we went to Arches and Canyonlands and we went to Dead Horse State Park. So just trying to see as much as we could within the time that we were there, and like, you know, picking out fun restaurants to eat at, and like we had some really good food when we were there. And it was just, you know, great. You've spent so much time outside. It was amazing. And then we also got like elopement wedding pictures one of the days. That was also a big part of this trip. We did not have a traditional wedding, and we hadn't gotten pictures done because we wanted pictures in Moab. So that was amazing. Like, it was so awesome and like such a unique experience, and I'm obsessed with all of our pictures so far. We haven't even gotten all of them back yet, just like a preview, but I love them so much. I look at them at least once a day. And they just turned out like incredible. And like when you're in that landscape, it just looks fake. If you know what I mean. Like if you've ever been anywhere so beautiful, or like the Grand Canyon, you're like, dang, this like does not even look real. Like that's how the landscape was. So yeah, that was awesome. And I'm really glad that we have those pictures to look back on, and we're going to blow some up for our house, which is great. And then what else did we do? We went, whitewater rafting on the Colorado River. It was very gentle rafting. I didn't realize that, like, I've done whitewater rafting previously, but apparently that was like really rough compared to like regular rafting. So I was expecting like us to be wearing helmets and like all these rapids, and like it was just so calm compared to what I had done in the past. So that was just like kind of funny, but it was beautiful. I mean, like floating in the river and like see the canyons like above you, or not above you, but like beside you. We saw like a couple bald eagles when we were floating down the river. And then like we just also met a lot of really cool people, not only on the rafting thing, but like at restaurants, and you know, it's a big like tourist area. And so we actually met like quite a few people from the areas that we had like been to on the east, which was like funny. Everybody was super nice. And so yeah. And then after we got back, so we did like Saturday to Friday for the Utah trip, and we got back at like 2 a.m. Saturday morning. And then we got up at like 8 to go and meet my mom in South Carolina to swap the dogs back. And then we had Sunday to like rest before going back to work, which I was really glad we did, because we had so much laundry. And like anytime you take time off or a vacation, always plan for a buffer day if possible before going back to work, because every time I do it, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And then whenever you don't do it, it's like terrible, because then you just like everything bleeds into the next week. So that was super nice. But then getting back to work Monday, because it was last Monday at this point, or no, 2 Mondays, whatever. Yeah, last Monday, sorry. It was really rough, like getting back to like using your brain and like critical thinking. I was like being inside much more than usual. I was like, oh my gosh, this is brutal. So last week honestly felt like sort of brutal. By Thursday, I was like kind of back in my regular routine. But anyways, yeah, that like post-vacation blues is like so real. So real. But yeah, so that's like it kind of like, you know, had me thinking like, okay, how can I set up my life to where I can be outside a little bit more, right? I'm a little more intentional about like not being inside so much. How can we be intentional about like doing fun outdoor outings, even if it doesn't look like we go to this epic hike, right? And so that was like a cool thing that came out of the trip for like both me and Patrick. And so I talked about that. And so anyways, yeah. Yeah, that kind of brings us like up to speed here with the last week in October, which how is it like November almost? And that's crazy. The time is changing this weekend, which is, kind of hard, because like, yes, we like the extra hour, but I hate losing daylight, because now like it's gonna get dark super early, and that just it's so difficult. So also trying to be proactive about like, okay, how can I not fall into as much of like seasonal depression as usual. And I think that being in the South is going to be helpful because it's not going to be so cold to where we like cannot go outside, right? There's not going to be snow to my hip for months at a time. So I think that's going to be helpful. But again, just trying to think about how can I be more intentional about being outside more, like, and just because it's dark doesn't mean that I, can't do things, right? I can still do things even though it is dark, right? Sometimes in our brain, it's like, all right, if it's dark, I can't do anything, but that's not true. So anyways, yeah. So I think that is pretty much it for this recap. If you listen to these, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. If you are newer to my podcast, on Mondays, I come out with like a value-based episode. On Fridays, I do these weekly recaps about like behind the scenes, what's going on, what I'm dealing with, struggling with, any nuggets of wisdom that I feel like are beneficial. So if you are newer and you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe. And I will see you here next time. Thanks for being here.